Hello and welcome to Spinster's Library. I'm Bill, and today I want to talk about why teenage girls are not taken as seriously as adult men when they say exactly the same things. Last week you might have seen this video being shared on Twitter. This is a clip from 16-year-old Gracie Cunningham's TikTok, on which she asked some questions about the concepts and history of algebra. I will link Gracie's Twitter in the description box below. I'm not on TikTok, so you'll have to find that for yourselves. Gracie's video was tweeted with the comment, "This is the dumbest video I've ever seen." I saw this video and was baffled by how many people were insulting Gracie's intelligence when all she did was ask some questions, which, frankly, I'd never asked myself about the history of mathematics. But I had the feeling that a large amount of the ridicule aimed at Gracie was not because of what she said, but because of her gender, age, and dialect. So I sat down at this desk. I asked my wife to record me reading out her exact words, but with the privilege of being a white British man in his 30s. I'll play you both clips now, but let's start with my cover first. Pay attention to your thoughts as you watch this. I just wanted to tell you guys about how I don't think maths is real. And I know it's real because we learn it in school or whatever, but who came up with the concept? And you're going to say Pythagoras, but how? How did he come up with this? He was living in the whenever, but it's not now when you have technology and stuff. You know, he didn't even have plumbing. And he was like, let me worry about y equals mx plus b. Which, I mean, first of all, how would you even figure that out? How would you start on the concept of algebra? What did you need it for? Because I get addition, right? If I take 2 apples and then add 3, it's 5, you know? But how would you come up with the concept of algebra? Because what would you need it for? You know what I mean? What would you need it for back then? You didn't need it, so why come up with it? And now let's listen to Gracie's original video.
I was just doing my makeup for work, and I just wanted to tell you guys about how I don't think math is real. And I know that, it's real because we all, learn it in school or whatever, but who came up with this concept? And you're like, Pythagoras. But how? How did he come up with this? He was living in, I don't know, whenever he was living, but it was not now, where you can, have technology and stuff, you know? He didn't even have plumbing. And he was like, let me worry about y equals mx plus b. Which, first of all, how would you even figure that out? How would you, start on the concept of algebra? What did you need it for? You know, because, I get, addition, hey, if I take 2 apples and then add 3, it's 5, you know? But how would you come up with the concept of, algebra? Because what would you need it for? You know what I mean? What would you need it for back then? You didn't need it, so why would you come up with it?
Most of you will have noticed a difference in your reaction to my video as opposed to Gracie's, and most of the responses I got when I posted this comparison side by side on Twitter confirm that. The difference was that I used my own British grammar school accent and way of speaking. Growing up as a middle-class English boy in the 90s, I was socialised to be confident about my opinions, and I happen to live in a society that values voices like mine. Male, white, educated, confident, over voices that are different to mine. My video got comments comparing me to the presenter of a BBC docu-series on the history of mathematics, or to the host of one of the many philosophy YouTube channels out there. I actually don't know what I'm talking about. I got an E in my maths A-level. Gracie, on the other hand, is a model student with an A- in algebra and a 4.16 GPA, which I assume means excellent in American. I got exactly 1 direct message on Twitter explaining the history of mathematics to me. I can only wonder how many Gracie got. Some people pointed out that it wasn't just the voice that made a difference, but also the fact that I was wearing a shirt in my video and she was applying makeup. It's the same thing. The same biases that make you take me more seriously for my male British voice are what make you consider the act of applying makeup frivolous and shallow, as if any of those things change the meaning of the words we both said. It's just old-fashioned misogyny. This person on Twitter commented that they didn't like the original video because of, and I quote, the look at me flirtation with the camera. A flirtation with the camera? Did we watch the same video? You have to ask yourself why you think that a 16-year-old girl asking questions about mathematics while putting on makeup comes across as flirtatious, And me wearing my nicest shirt in front of a pretty background doesn't. The answer is misogyny, with a side serving of sexualizing children. This is not a good look. I saw a lot of responses to my tweet by academics working in the field of sociolinguistics. Sociolinguistics is the study of the relationships between language and society. Sociolinguists look at how social factors such as class, gender, and race influence how we speak. They may also look at how an individual may change their language in different social situations. For example, the difference between "give me that" and "may I have that please" is more than just a different choice of words. It also reflects the cultural values that were taught to the speaker. However, sociolinguists also study how the language we use influences how we are perceived, and that's what we're talking about in today's video. Negative perceptions towards the speech of teenage girls is not a particularly new phenomenon, but has received much more recent attention thanks to the internet. In 2015, Canadian linguist Gretchen McCulloch published a piece on Quartz noting that negative criticism of the speech patterns of teenage girls is basically founded on old-fashioned sexism. And McCulloch presents an overview of research done on the topic of speech patterns of young women from all over the world. Research has constantly shown that women frequently lead changes to a language. And this has been noted by William Labov in 1990, who is regarded as the founder of the modern field of sociolinguistics. A particularly interesting study was conducted by the University of Helsinki in 2003 by Terttu Navalian and Helena Roman-Brunberg. They looked at language change in England between 1417 and 1681 by combing through 6,000 personal letters from the time. Their findings are fascinating, suggesting that women were responsible for the outmoding of the word ye, meaning you, the change from mine eyes to my eyes, and also the replacements of the words hath, doth, and maketh in favour of has, does, and makes. English is by far not the only language to be affected by the speech of young women. Studies have shown that young women spearheaded linguistic innovations in French and Arabic spoken in Cairo, and are even responsible for entire language shifts, such as the shift from a bilingual German-Hungarian society to a mostly German-only society in Austria. Despite often being the active drivers of change in our use of language, women and teenage girls' speech is often perceived as less serious and trustworthy. Many women responded to the whole discussion around Gracie's video with their own experiences and anecdotes of not being taken as seriously when saying the same things and asking the same questions as the men around them. Women have often learned to suppress those speech patterns that they think might be considered too feminine in professional and academic settings. Think of the types of speech that in the English-speaking world we have decided sound unprofessional. Vocal fry, upspeak, saying like and kind of as filler words. And none of these things make a person's statement or question less valid. We perceive them as annoying, unprofessional, and ignorant because these quirks of spoken language have been popularized by girls and women. When we associate speech with femininity, we value that speech less. But even if women learn to talk exactly like men using the same speech patterns and inflections, they will still be taken less seriously. Growing up as a girl, you're usually not encouraged to speak with confidence and certainty and take up space in public discourse and ask questions about the things you don't know. You're taught that if you don't know something, it's best not to ask, because there's a real chance your lack of knowledge on a certain topic, say the history and philosophy of algebra, will be weaponized against you. Of course, Pythagoras didn't invent algebra, you silly girl. Shut up and keep putting that foundation on. A girl should be seen and not heard. We're all familiar with these concepts. At the same time that girls are taught to keep quiet, boys are taught to blag with confidence. Blagging and bluffing are skills that serve men well. Think of a female politician with the same level of ignorance as Donald Trump, or the obvious lack of understanding of policy detail that Boris Johnson displays. Do you think any woman politician with the same skills and intelligence would have ever made it to the top like they did? We're so dazzled by the confidence of mediocre white men that we fail to listen to their words and see the incompetence in them. This idea was turned against Donald Trump by the brilliant comedian Sarah Cooper, whose lip-sync videos of his speeches and interviews go viral on a regular basis. The same words that have persuaded millions of Americans to vote for Trump suddenly have the glamour stripped away when spoken by a black woman instead. Sarah Cooper herself is very much aware of the privilege a white man such as Donald Trump is afforded over a black woman such as herself when speaking. In an interview with InStyle, she said, "I've always felt the need to choose my words very carefully, or better yet, not say anything at all. And for me, as a black woman in a white male-dominated industry, it was often the best option. Black women usually don't get the luxury of faking their way through life and still succeeding, but when a white guy does it, he may even get to be President of the United States." Her brilliant performances of Donald Trump's speeches demonstrate just how little attention we pay to the words that are spoken when we lazily make assumptions about the speaker, based on their gender, age, ethnicity and nationality. Sarah Cooper continues speaking about the way she exposed Trump's verbal nonsense when she says, "It was just exhilarating to play the most powerful man in the world and expose him as the clueless snake oil salesman he is. I'd taken the suit and the podium and the people behind him smiling and nodding and calling him sir, and all that was left were his empty words, which in reality were not the best. It felt like the antidote to the gaslighting." Society is failing the girls of today in the same way it has always failed them. We teach them to be quiet and not ask questions, and when they ask questions we call them stupid, and when they insist on having those questions answered we call them abrasive and obnoxious. And there are still many spaces in this world where marginalised groups and minorities' mere existence is seen as political, and their very questions considered a threat to the status quo. We don't allow women to speak. Studies have shown that in mixed gender conversation it's almost always men interrupting women, talking over them. This phenomenon can be observed many times in political debates on television, as well as boardrooms and conferences around the world. If you grow up being belittled, ignored, mocked, interrupted, talked over every time you open your mouth, you would probably become silent eventually. Having to prove yourself in every conversation is exhausting. And there's no simple solution to these discrepancies in our perception of speech based on our preconceptions of the speaker. Sure, we can teach girls to blag and bluff as much as men, but because they're girls and women, they'll still not be taken as seriously. Instead of once again blaming women and marginalised groups for not being male and white enough, we as a society, and white men in particular, need to stop putting the blame on them and open up our discussion spaces for everyone. We need to take a step back and question how men have been getting away with incompetence and ignorance for so long in positions of power and in everyday life, when girls like Gracie get openly mocked for asking questions. And when we discourage young, talented girls for questioning the world at age 16, when we mock their curiosity, we end up with a society ruled by mediocre white men with an inflated sense of their own abilities. You might be wondering if me, a white British man with no direct experience of sexism, as someone who always gets taken at his word and whose authority is rarely questioned, if I'm the right person to talk about this. Of course I'm not. I'm just reading out a script written by my wife Claudia. Our friend Elvan added those clever bits about sociolinguistics. I don't really know any of that. Claudia hoped that when you hear me talk about this issue, with all of the authority and privilege that my voice carries, you might be more likely to absorb the message of the video. And none of these words are my own, as she can make me say anything she wants. But because she's lovely and not cruel, she's just going to make me say that you should subscribe to her channel, Spinster's Library, and check out the videos in which she herself speaks the words she writes. Links to Irvan's, Claudia's and my social media are in the description box, as well as links to all of the sources. Before I end this video, let me once again implore you to pay attention to what women, girls, people of colour, disabled people and other marginalised people are saying. Question your own prejudices when you hear someone speak who doesn't look and sound like you. Listen beyond speech patterns, dialect and choice of vocabulary. Make space in your communication and discourse,
both online and offline, for questions from everyone. Take a step back and let others lead the discussion. Stop taking credit for the ideas of women in marginalised groups. Listen with your whole brain. Thank you for watching. Bye.